Hello everybody! I hope you all had a wonderful start into the new year. I know this is a little bit late, but some people have a personal life. Well, not me, but I'm sure some people do. So, some people in my Discord, which you should totally join, asked for some sort of rating for the easiest nations or most suitable nations for beginners, because they got EU4 for Christmas, and yeah, they wanted to know which nations would be easy to play as, to kinda get to know the game and learn the game. So that's why I'm making this top 5 of easy beginner nations. Yay! So, number 5 is England. Why is England not higher on the list? Because what happens most of the time is that England gets into a war with France, and that can be a bit frustrating, especially when you are new to the game, because France usually is way stronger than you are, because they get a lot of national ideas and focuses, and they just usually have a stronger economy than you in the beginning anyway, and you would need to land your troops here by that time. In most cases, France already either occupies or just sits on a province anyways, so you'd get a landing penalty, which is pretty bad. So that's why this is only number 5. But if you will just let France take your mainland Europe provinces, you can have a pretty good time as England. You start off with a pretty nice navy. You have 6 heavies, which is probably the most any nation starts with this time. And you are on an island. So after you lose these provinces, you really don't need to worry about mainland Europe pretty much at all, because with your navy you can just defend your own territory and yeah, never really risk losing a war. So why is it suitable for beginners? Because you have some really weak neighbors. The weakest ones are the Irish miners, which you can really easily eat up. I mean, they are really weak. You start with 27 units and they only with 5. Sure, they'll probably ally each other, but you can just steamroll them. And you already start near Scotland. Keep in mind that he's guaranteed by France, and he's in a lot of cases going to ally France, but that's not necessarily going to happen. And your navy at the beginning is definitely stronger than the navy of France, so depends on when you attack Scotland. The only thing you risk is that France occupies these provinces here, these 6 or maybe even 7, if they get access through Burgundy. And yeah, after that you can pretty much just keep them in Europe, because they are not going to be able to invade you, and you can just occupy Scotland and wait for piecing out France and then eating most of Scotland, which is nice. And you'll eventually even border Norway if you want to go that route, and maybe conquer some of the Scandinavian lands here. But what makes England also really nice and interesting is because you are so isolated, you'll have a pretty nice time just colonizing, because you don't need to worry about other direct wars. So that's what a lot of England players are doing. I mean, I never really played England because, in my opinion, colonization is pretty boring, but it's definitely something you can do, and it's can be really rewarding, especially if you control most of the Americas eventually. And yeah, all these little tribes here, they are really weak. I mean, they start on take 1, whereas the European, all the European nations and most of the other nations start at take 3, so yeah, you really don't need to worry about these guys if you want to fight them. And the trade nodes can be really nice if you control a lot of the land here. So yeah, that's pretty nice. Number 4 is Castile. And why is it Castile? Because you can get pretty much 2 personal unions for free. One over Aragon and consequently one over Naples, because they are currently in a union under Aragon. You would get both of them through an event if you take the right choice, but that's that shouldn't be that hard to click a button, right? So yeah, why is Castile easy? So what people might think is, oh, I need to worry about France. Yes, that might happen, but what happens most of the time is France is pretty much definitely going to rival Austria or England. In this case they didn't, but they rivaled Austria, because these guys are historical rivals. And most of the time France is going to rival England too, because England controls their cores here. That's the reason why they go to war so early on. And what happens then, they still have a rival slot open, or in this case even 2. Most of the time they'll rival Burgundy, which they did, or Aragon or you. In this case they didn't rival either of you, they rivaled Venice, which is kind of abnormal. Probably won't even last that long, but I mean, if that's what they want to rival, sure. So, in case they rival Aragon and England, that can be pretty nice for you, because I think you start off... Alright, because I just switched them. You can rival England, Burgundy, and most of the people that they either rival or can rival. So, since they most of the time rival Austria and or England, in this case they didn't rival England, you could just rival one of them, and that'll make France like you, which is nice, so you don't need to worry about them, and have a really strong ally to the north or northeast, whatever you want to call that. Then Angola gives you protection from Aragon as long as they are not in the union under you, but just really nice of an insurance, kinda, in any case. So, your navy is not that bad either, 3 heavies, bunch of light ships, transports, so that's pretty good. So, what makes this nation suitable for beginners? You have a bunch of neighbors. The one you probably need to worry about the most would be Aragon, because they usually hate you. And, well, yeah, maybe France, but for that, as I said, you could just rival England or Austria or Burgundy, depending on who they rivaled, and just hope that they don't rival you. And then you'll most likely be able to ally them. And for Portugal, they like you because you are historical friends. And they're allied to England, but don't really need to care about that much. Navarra, you can, in most cases, try to ally them and eventually vassalize them. But sometimes France is trying to do that as well, so yeah, might depend on luck, just who starts it earlier. And the last of your direct neighbors would be Granada, who you don't have any cores or claims on, but you start with a mission, finish the Reconquista, which gives you claims on all of this land, which is really nice. Usually they ally either Morocco, Tlemcen or Tunis, or maybe even two of these three. But they usually don't really will be able to reach your land, because your navy is stronger and yeah. I mean, there's this strait, but that's controlled by Portugal and they hate these guys. They hate them. Oh, yeah. They really hate each other. So you usually just kill Granada. Army is pretty weak. You just occupy them and wait for the ticking war score and just to be able to eventually fully annex them, in most cases. What's not so great about Castile is they, a lot of times they get into the civil war pretty early on, which can be really annoying. But if you're allied to Portugal or maybe even Aragon, if they don't rob you, you could get some help with the rebels from those guys if you give them access, but it wouldn't be the end of the world if they win. It's just really annoying at the beginning of the game, so yeah. Alright, once you've conquered Granada, I know I used console commands because I didn't want to wait, because we still had a truce. So, once you've done that, you can either expand into North Africa here, attacking Morocco, Tlemcen or Tunis, and eventually these guys, which can be pretty nice. Usually you are stronger than them. Morocco can be strong because they control one gold province, yes. That gives them access to a lot of gold and yeah, consequently they can afford quite a big army. So yeah, you can go this way. Just note that all of this land is Sunni, if I can find it, yeah, Sunni. And you need to convert that, and that can be quite a pain, because converting Sunni lands can take quite a while, and the increased unrest is really annoying, but the land's usually pretty good here, at least the Moroccan part of it, so it's surely worth it if you want to go that way. But another option would be to just go and colonize. You start in a pretty good position here. You could colonize, yeah, West Africa here, Cape Coast, Gold Coast, and all that. Fight these Native American tribes. It's not an attack behind you, so you should have a pretty easy time defeating those guys. And you could also just colonize the Americas, same as with England. But unlike England, you start in a really good position to colonize Africa as well, which is pretty nice. Can have some nice resources, especially all this gold here. It's gonna really help your economy. So yeah, those are the two ways I would go for. I mean, you could also just try to get personal unions over a lot of people, but I never really tried that. I don't know how effective that would be. I kinda doubt that would really be effective, but if you wanna do that, sure, yeah, I guess you can. Number 3 would be France. So, why France? Because, as I said, you start with a bunch of cores on the English lands here. And those are pretty much always a very easy first war. Because, yeah, let's be honest, the English AI usually is really bad at defending this. You can most of the time just sit on all the provinces. The English, if they decide to land, will get a really big landing penalty and you'll pretty much win every engagement and maybe even completely destroy their army, further, well, destroying their morale and stuff, war enthusiasm. So yeah, that's usually a pretty easy war. You'd get all these provinces, which are pretty high development, and won't even give you that much aggressive expansion because there are your cores. I mean, it's 10 development, 21, 16, 16, 17, 15, and 13. Most of the time you're probably not going to be able to take all provinces in one war, because you can just occupy these provinces and you're most likely not going to make it to the English mainland because your army is weaker in the beginning than the English navy is. But you'll get a bunch of ticking war score, and eventually they'll agree to give you most of this land. I think most of the time you'll have to take Calais in a later war, but if you get lucky you might get all of these provinces. One, especially because you don't start with a core in Calais, so yeah. It's just going to take a while. Usually to wait to get all the war score. It can be annoying, but it's very worth it for this development. So what else makes France suitable for beginners? They have a bunch of really great ideas, especially Elan. 20% more morale of armies is just amazing. It's probably one of the strongest ideas any nation has, except for maybe Prussia or Brandenburg, because they have Prussian ideas. But 20% morale of armies, especially as your second idea, it's just really, really huge. Especially at the beginning of the game, it's amazing. It lets you win pretty much every even engagement. Okay, once you've taken all this land in your war, what do you do now? So, what I would do is, well, I'm allied to these guys because I just tech switched to France. But what I would do is, first of all, I'd wait a couple of years, I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 years, for the aggressive expansion to tick down a bit, and afterwards I'd probably attack either Provence or Brittany, depending on who is weaker. And yeah, I'd eat some of that land too, just because it's really some nice development to get. Especially all this of Brittany and yeah, Provence too. I got some nice provinces here. Provinces. Yeah, I'm sorry. So yeah, you could do that. You could also try to vassalize Navarra before Castile does. And yeah, so what's a little bit challenging for France is the fact that, let's see, where do I have it? Where do I have this damn map mode? Oh, right here. That they start right next to the Holy Roman Empire. And most of the nations they border are, at least at the beginning of the game, are part of it. Especially Savoy, because luckily Burgundy, who you can rival, is not part of it, but they own some territory that belongs to the Holy Roman Empire. You might not want to take that, because that would be a lot of aggressive expansion, because it is part of it, and yeah. It would also give the Emperor a casus belli on you, as long as it is part of the Empire and you don't remove it from the Empire, which would further upset the Emperor. So yeah, he would have a permanent casus belli on you if he decides to reform the Empire. Yes, the first reform gives a casus belli a non-member holding imperial territory. So for example, he would have, if he reforms, or if he chooses that one, the first reform, he'd have a constant casus belli against Burgundy, his vassals, Poland, I think? No, the Teutons, other province, and Venice. So yeah, you maybe not wanna take these provinces right at the beginning. But yeah, you could just eat Provence, Brittany, and yeah, most of the western half of Burgundy. It's pretty high development anyways, so you won't even be able to take that much anyhow, but just keep in mind that the Holy Roman Empire is still a thing. So yeah, what other options do you have? I mean, you could just wait, because in 1490, if the Emperor doesn't control, I think, all of Venice or something, then most of these northern Italian states will leave the Holy Roman Empire, which opens up all of this for you to expand, kind of, because it's expanding into Italy is still can be annoying, because you'll get a shit ton of aggressive expansion. You really will. It's everyone who has tried to form Italy knows what a pain that can be. It can be really annoying, but yeah. Otherwise, you could try to attack Aragon at the beginning. Maybe even Castile if you want to, because they usually start off weaker than you. So that's one option. Or you could also just eventually just try to expand into here if you attack Aragon and, you know, get some bordering sea tile provinces here, taking the Belarus or Sicily. No wait, that's Sicily. This one's Sardinia or something? I don't know. Yeah, Corsica, I think that's Sardinia. I don't know. I don't know, man. And yeah, the other option, as with England and Castile, would be to just go and colonize. You don't start off in such a great position as Castile, but yeah, you'll still be able to probably colonize West Africa if you are quick enough before Castile takes this province. Yeah, you might be able to take that and then from there further colonize here, which would be nice. But otherwise you just have to wait a bit until your colonial reach increases and all that, but yeah, that'll work too. You could also just ally Castile if you don't want to fight them. So you don't need to worry about all of this, because eventually they'll probably get the Union of Aragon and Naples, but yeah, if you want to do that. But you could also just attack them and get some more development. It's really up to you, but France is usually a pretty solid choice.
China. 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 China.
Number 2 would be Ming. Keep in mind that I'm using the Mandate of Heaven DLC. Without that, Ming usually has a lot harder time, because most of the time they ended up in a civil war with a lot of separatists, but if you have the Mandate of Heaven, Ming is really strong. I mean, most of the time they are the world's strongest nation. They're just insane. I mean, Jesus. Let's see, yeah, I start off with a total development of over 1,100. It's just insane. I don't know, man. So, what makes Ming easy if you have the DLC? If you don't have it, you might not want to choose Ming, because having all these separatists can be really annoying, so maybe then you just ignore Ming and I don't know. But yeah, if you have the DLC, Ming is huge, has a lot of development and a huge economy. They started with making almost 39 decades each month, which is insane. And you'd probably expect that they maybe need to worry about all their neighbors because they are so huge and a lot of people would hate them and want their land. Yeah, no. The thing is, they have a lot of tributary states. Pretty much everyone they surround is their tributary, especially out of Southeast Asia. I think these don't start off as their tributaries, but they'll most likely accept to become a tributary if you offer it to them. So, and what is the benefit of tributary states? Well, they kind of act like subjects, but not really. I mean, if they get attacked, you'll have to defend them, but I think if you get attacked, they don't necessarily defend you. I think they get the option, maybe, if they want to. But the main thing is that they get protection, but in exchange, they'll have to give you something each year. This can be either gold, in the form of ducats. This can also be admin points, developer points, military points, or even manpower each year. And you can also interact with them to keep them loyal and stuff, which is kind of nice. So, that adds to your huge economy, and even though with the introduction of institutions, most of the institutions will start over here and usually have a pretty hard time actually wandering all the way to Asia here. But because you can choose to get monarch points from your subjects and not just gold, you can have a lot of monarch points and even make the institutions spawn in your land. So if an institution has already spawned, you can start to develop provinces to let's see. So the Renaissance wasn't created yet, but let's just imagine it already exists, but we don't have it here. We could just develop this province, and that would give us more and more percentage towards this. And if we have this at 100, this one province has the Renaissance, and will then spread it to all the neighboring provinces and provinces that it borders with a sea tile here. So if you have a lot of monarch points, as you can get with all your tributaries, you can just start to develop your provinces, and then once the institution has been created, then you can get that get the institution through developing your provinces. And with all your money, you'll be able to afford to embrace the institution pretty early on. But what you can also do is you could just, before an institution is even created, you could just develop some of your provinces really a lot, and then the chance that the institution spawns in your land increases. So that would make it even easier for you to stay overpowered. Because if an institution spawns here and not in Europe, that's gonna change a lot. I mean, they're gonna get a lot of attack penalties, and it would just be really really bad for them, and really good for you. But yeah. So but what if you don't want to just sit here and, well, have all the tributaries? So, you can always just cancel the tributary. They will remove them, and they'll probably hate you. But yeah, that lets you expand into there. You could just eat them, and yeah, you're not even surrounded completely by tributaries. You could just expand into here and even India if you want to. The only thing is, having tributaries is quite nice because it helps you with your mandate. This gives a lot of nice benefits. It reduces the national unrest and stability cost. Yeah, you could also get meritocracy, as long as you are the, the emperor of China. Keep in mind that other nations could become that too, but it's if you get used to this a bit and have at least some tributary states, you'll usually not lose this title. And then, if you have enough decrees, you can choose one of these 6 nice bonuses. Reduce your development cost for 10 years and core creation cost, ship durability, which I don't know, I wouldn't really choose, but I guess. For defense, infantry compatibility, which is really nice if you want to expand yourself via combat and conquest. Trade power modifier, I guess, can be nice, and national tax modifier 25%. That's really good. So yeah, and you could also just go colonizing if you wanted to, because you could colonize Taiwan, the Philippines here, these islands here. Dutch East Indies are what they're called. At least in modern times, so on. So yeah, you could colonize that, maybe even colonize Australia if you wanted to. And yeah, so that's quite nice, and yeah, you really don't have any strong neighbors that you need to worry about at all. I mean, these nations might look big, but they are really weak. They are really weak. I mean, the only thing is why they are so big, they have big provinces that are, just bigger than most of your provinces here. Usually have smaller provinces, and a lot of them. But these guys have big provinces, and usually most of them are not really well developed. So yeah, you really don't need to worry about those guys. So yeah, that's Ming for you, at least if you have the Mandate of Heaven. If you don't, it can be really annoying to fight all the rebels, but it's not impossible. You can still win and then very easily become one of the, if not the strongest power in the game. So yeah, you could also just do it without the DLC. But I think you won't be able to create the tributary states. Not sure though. You definitely won't have access to the Empire of China thing, which is kind of like the Holy Roman Empire, but it's a little bit different. You can also do some reforms, which I never really did, because I never really played a Ming, but well. And number 1 goes to the Ottoman Empire. Who would have thought? Yeah, I mean, even though the Ottomans got a little bit of a nerf with the Cradle of Civilization DLC, they are still one of the most overpowered nations in the game. It's just they've pretty much always been. It's just insane. So, what makes the Ottomans so overpowered and so easy to play as? They get a lot of claims through missions. I just tag switch to them. I usually wouldn't do these claims with the first missions. I'd usually go for the claims on Byzantium and Constantinople, because it's a really great province. Let's see. Yeah, it's a coastal center of trade for the Constantinople trade node here, which is a really nice and valuable trade node, which gives you a lot of wealth. I mean, I've got my army on full maintenance and I'm still making money. And my army isn't that small, I mean, yeah, that's quite nice. 33 units. So yeah, you usually, what you do first is just beat up Byzantium. You can, I believe you can completely annex them, yes, and their vassal Athens in one war. And usually they don't really get any meaningful allies. Oh, this time they allied Circassia. Oh, that's even easier. Usually they ally, I think, Serbia. Maybe Wallachia, but usually Serbia. But that's not really going to be hard at all. And if you want to, you'd go as well get a gold province here, if they ally them. Just also take Kosovo, get some nice small income. Yeah, so if you have the Cradle of Civilization DLC, you don't just get this buff to all of your units, all this, I think before the DLC it was 10% discipline or something, that all of your units got from this Janissaries event, which was really, really overpowered in my opinion, but yeah, now if you have the DLC, you can build Janissary units. They get some nice bonuses. They receive less fire and shock damage, and yeah, they acquire the army drill really fast, which is nice. Gives them some further bonuses. I believe decreases the damage they take and increases the damage they deal, which is kind of nice. But yeah, now if you have the DLC, it's not this general buff, but a buff to some of your units, which is really nice. But also makes them, at least the reinforcements, more expensive. But you have a really nice economy because, yeah, you started a really nice trade node here. So, once you've done that, I mean, that's at least what I would recommend, because it's usually a really good idea to do that. So what you can do... Oh, you don't start with cores anymore, huh? Well, I haven't played as the Ottomans since the Cradle of Civilization DLC came out. So if you don't have that, I don't know if they changed it with a patch. Huh. Well, the Ottomans started with a lot of cores on this territory and here, but apparently they don't anymore, which is weird. But hey, now you can just also make Constantinople your capital, which will give you a lot of development in there, which is usually really nice. And you can do this, which gives you a lot more manpower for the end of the game. Sure. I mean, it's not that much of a change or nerf to them, but you can just fabricate a claim on them separately. It won't take that much longer, and yeah. I mean, you are a lot stronger than these guys, especially with your Janissary units. You're pretty much guaranteed to win against these guys, especially if they, or even if they ally each other. The only thing that might be a little bit annoying if, for example, Karaman allies the Mamluks here, because they at least start off with a similar strength in units than you do, but you could just pick those neighbors that are definitely weaker than you and then ally these guys. So, once you've done that, well, it's pretty much up to you. You are pretty strong now, and yeah, you are, if you have managed to conquer all of this, you are stronger than the Mamluks and could just beat them up and take some of their land, which would be pretty nice, even if it's not the most developed here. Well, it's actually not that bad, but yeah, $5 band, I mean, I mean, most of it's pretty nice, especially the coastline here, and provinces like Damascus. But some can be rather negligible. But yeah, most of it's really nice. And it just makes the Mamluks weaker, which is also really nice. You could also just, well, expand into the Balkans. You could annex Wallachia, Serbia, and Bosnia if you want to, in Burgos, and maybe fight Venice for stuff like Crete or Negroponte, or even this province, and maybe Dalmatia if you want to. And what makes Serbia so nice is the gold province. It's one of the only gold provinces in Europe, except for one in Hungary, Austria, Bohemia, and Castile. I think that's pretty much all the gold provinces in Europe. Depends on if you count that to Europe. So yeah, you could do that. One thing to watch out for is probably Poland, Lithuania, if Poland gets the personal union. Maybe Austria-Hungary if Austria gets the Union of Hungary. And maybe if these guys ally each other, but in this case, are they going to? Well, I don't know. Probably not at this point because they are rather hungry, but it's something you might need to watch out for, but usually they don't attack the Ottomans because they are too scared or too busy with other stuff. Especially Poland in my latest games, they just did really poorly. Yeah, man. And if you decide to ally Austria, you could just ally, if you decide to rival Austria, excuse me, you could just ally France because they hate Austria most of the time. I mean, they have them as a historical rival, but I don't know, they might not actually rival them. So yeah, you could just ally France, which would make it a lot easier for you. See? And yeah, that pretty much lets you be safe from any attack, and yeah, you are free to expand into the Middle East, into Northeast Africa, into the Balkans, pretty much do whatever you want. You could also expand into Arabia here. And yeah, the Ottomans are just really goddamn overpowered. I mean, yes, they got a bit of a nerf because the Janissaries were made into separate regiments, but still, they are really, really overpowered. Calculation cost decreased, member recovery speed, cavalry combat ability, war exhaustion, tax modifier, trade efficiency, more discipline right from the start. It's just insane. So yeah, these are my choices for the top 5 nations that are most suitable for new players and beginners. I hope that helped you at least a bit, and yes, let me know what you think. I hope you enjoyed this video that was a little bit different than the rest of my videos, but yeah, some people asked for it and I thought, well, that's not too bad of an idea, so yeah, let's try that, and I hope it turned out nicely and helpful. So yeah, I hope you have a wonderful start into the new year. Enjoy playing some EU4 in this year as well, if you want to. If I had made this list a top 5 overpowered nations, we all know who I would have picked as number 1. We all know who.